What kind of cables make my skin crawl? Where do I stand on the natural fibres debate? And why do KnitTuber sponsorships make me feel like I'm in Groundhog Day? All this and more in today's video, my knitting hot takes. Oh, that's some hot tea. Yeah, obviously there's actually no tea in here. Because it is far too small for a cup of tea. It's just the cutest cup I had for the thumbnail. Knitting hot take videos are a rite of passage for many aspiring KnitTubers. And today I will be sharing my controversial, hot, spicy, unpopular knitting opinions with you. And of course, I need to start with the obligatory disclaimer, which is these are just my opinions. This video is meant to just be a bit of fun. If you want to debate any of these opinions, you're welcome to in the comments below. Just keep your tone as soft as your yarn stash. If you disagree with anything, I agree to disagree. I love most cables. They're a surprisingly easy way to add texture and intrigue to otherwise flat knitting. First of all, we have honeycomb cables, and I know they're super popular at the moment, like with the Petite Knit Dagmar jacket, and in theory, they sound lovely, geometrical hexagons, but the rounded, uneven squishiness of them once they've been knit up in yarn, it's a bit uncanny valley lotus pods for me, which I haven't heard anyone else say yet. In the worst case, when it's in a skin tone fabric, it can look like a bad skin condition. You may have heard of trypophobia, which is a fear or aversion to uneven holes, clusters, or bumps. And it isn't quite what I have. I can eat lotus root in ramen, for example, but I just can't wear something that gives me that trypophobia vibes. Yeah, not for me, I'm afraid. Which is a bit of a shame, as it looks like it would be super fun to knit, and I am enjoying trying out new cables at the moment. I don't think I will be making a honeycomb wearable anytime soon. The irony is not lost on me that I'm currently knitting something that looks a bit like ground beef, but I swear from the other side, it looks lovely. Another kind of cable that I'm not a big fan of personally is horseshoe or loose cables. Now, the horseshoe ones, I think, can look a bit spinal, which if that's intentional, that would be cool, but I think in most cases it's not. And loose cables, the first time I saw a sweater that was knit with them, I actually thought that the cables were coming undone, which was when I didn't know how cables were made. But I just think a nice, normal rope cable on a sweater is a classic, and it looks pretty, and I don't think it needs to be messed with. I think that shawls are cool, and they are basically like capes if you think about it. And I think they need to be brought back into fashion. I would love to knit some shawls. Let's stop saying they're fussy and old-fashioned and just admit we want to look like a heroine from a novel walking across the moors in a beautifully hand-knit shawl. I think the key thing is that people should be able to make informed decisions. And part of that is having full transparency about the yarn that they are using. When it comes to labeling transparency, I think if something is called wool on the label, it should be made of wool. Otherwise, it's yarn. If a yarn is called cashmerino, it should be more than 12% cashmere, because cashmerino is like 50% cashmere in the name. Let's play a quick game. How much cashmere do you think is in this cashmere cloud yarn? The answer is 20%. Did you guess higher or lower? Okay, how about this cashmerino? Well, the answer is 15%, and it's also a third acrylic. And how about this cash soft merino? Well, that one's 10% and a third acrylic. Okay, these two, summer cashmere versus summer in cashmere. Well, they're both 10% cashmere. And finally, how much in the snuggly cashmere merino? Well, it's only 5% and it's a third acrylic. Likewise, is something with 8% wool really a wool blend? I don't know. I guess technically it is, but it's more like a touch of wool. I just think it needs to be clearer when you're shopping online or on the yarn label, whether something is superwash or not, what the composition is, that sort of thing. Personally, I do lean towards wool and alpaca because I'm lucky enough to be able to afford them. I like how they feel and I like how they behave once you've knit something. And also they're a lot more elastic, which is good for the wrists because I've had RSI in the past. But on the other hand, I do like having the option to make blankets out of superwash wool, for example, this blanket, because I just don't want to encourage carpet beetles when I live in a very old Victorian house. And I also do have family members that have wool allergies, so I would obviously make something in acrylic for them if they wanted any gifts. At the end of the day, no one should be ashamed for the yarn choices that they make. It's a personal choice. The only thing that makes me a bit sad is if I had bags of yarn that would live beyond my life expectancy. Yeah. I love both knitting and crochet. This jacket and blanket are crocheted, but I'm currently knitting. I think they're like sisters rather than rivals. Both have their strengths and weaknesses, which I could probably go on for hours and hours about. But today I just wanted to speak about some of the weaknesses of knitting compared to crochet, I suppose. The main one being that I think knitting has it harder for beginners when it comes to tutorials. If you're someone who doesn't knit continental, I think modern HD clear tutorials are much harder to come by versus when you're crocheting, there's kind of one way to crochet, different ways to tension it, but it just looks a lot different when you're knitting English versus continental. It's not so much the content of older videos, it's just when the videos are lower bit rate, you have to kind of pause every so often and squint at the blurry screen trying to make out what's happening. And I just didn't have that with crochet when I was learning. Likewise, I think beginner projects are much easier to come by if you're a crocheter, whereas, for example, if Florence didn't have her step-by-step sweater tutorial on YouTube, I think it might have taken me a long time to be brave enough to try to learn to knit a jumper just from a pattern without the help of a video. I think maybe us younger folk, the millennials and Gen Z, prefer to learn with a video. So yes, in those respects, I've found crochet an easier thing to learn. When it comes to knitting patterns, I find that a picture says 1,000 words and can often replace 1,000 confusing ones. So yes, having plenty of pictures is a must for me. I also think if your pattern has a relaxed fit, it should have a legal definition for what it means by that. So how many inches is it actually oversized? Too much information surely has to be better than too little. I mean, my pet peeve is when a pattern says knit for 7 rows and it hasn't said whether you do or do not include the setup instructional rows first. And yeah, I always worry if it also doesn't have then the stitch count, that makes it even more confusing. So yeah, please include those details. I love my friends and family, of course I do. But when someone says, "Oh, you should sell your knitting," or "Oh, can you make me a jumper for Christmas?" Well, yeah, it triggers something deep inside my soul. I know they mean well, but they don't really understand that they're asking for hours of my time and a small fortune in yarn. I definitely don't enjoy gift knitting, but I will do it on occasion to make the people I care about most happy. That being said, I will not be knitting anybody a blanket, maybe not even myself. I always gauge swatch in some format or other. It's not just about getting the stitch count right, it's about deciding if you like the finished fabric that you're going to be making your project with. There's been a few times now where I've had to concede that the yarn I wanted to use just won't work for what I wanted to make it with. If it looks like I might be tight on the amount of yarn that I have, I will still do a gauge swatch, I just won't block it, and I will try my best, based on experience of the fibre that it's made of, to guesstimate how much it might grow by. But if it's ever possible, I do buy an extra ball of yarn in each colour just for gauge swatching purposes, and also it's better to be safe than sorry and run out of yarn mid-project. Blocking is Haji. Blocking is magic. Well, witchcraft, actually. If you spent nearly 100 hours making a really complicated sweater and you just don't feel like putting in that extra little bit of time at the end to make sure it has the drape and the fit you like, that just seems like a bad idea to me. I've never had a bad experience blocking, and hopefully I never will. It's only made things look better. Look, I get it. We all have bills to pay. But why must KnitTuber sponsorships all sound exactly the same? I'm assuming YouTubers aren't allowed to be creative with their ad copy, but do marketers really think that people won't get sick of hearing the exact same spiel each time they're sponsoring a video? I'm looking at you, Squarespace and Skillshare. Most yarn I buy doesn't need winding, but I actually kind of enjoy winding it by hand when I need to. And I live in the UK, so space is a rare commodity here. So having a ball winder and a Swift, they can be quite hefty, big things. And yeah, I haven't seen the need for them yet. Speaking of Swifts, I'm not actually a big fan of Taylor myself, but I know a lot of knitters are, so sorry. My final hot take is for non-knitters, and that is that knitting is not boring or stuffy. It's history, art, politics, tradition, even meditation all rolled into one. I love knitting, crochet, and fibre arts, and if you do too, why not subscribe to my channel? I've got a lot of fun videos coming out soon, including a 2025 pattern roundup. So if you'd like to see that or any of my other videos, please stick around. I'd love to have you here. This is Knitting with Catherine, and thank you so much for watching today. Bye, guys.